In today's video, we modified this poison tail swim jig mold to make some chatterbaits using a flat eye hook. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to SDG for some more mold modification and lure building today. One of my favorite jigs, swim jigs, is the poison tail. I love that sculptured head. I love the way that it looks, and I've always wanted to make a chatterbait, a bladed jig, using that mold, but there's one big problem, and that is it takes a vertical eye. You have a vertical line tie, right? The hook eye is parallel to the hook and to the head, and you want to put a blade on the front of that guy. It would be really nice just to be able to do that, right? That's how a Z-Man chatterbait works. But for most of us, and there's reasons, we'll get into it, we have to put a split ring right here. But if you put a split ring, the split ring goes sideways, which means your blade would come in at the same angle as the hook eye, and obviously that's not the way that a chatterbait works. You need a flat eye hook that's perpendicular to the head, perpendicular to the hook, right? That way you can put the split ring on, and then you can place your blade on the front, and it's properly constructed and it works right. Some guys have gotten around the vertical tie. So here's a normal hook that you would use in a poison tail jig. They would take a punch, put this on a piece of wood or something like that, put that punch right through the eye, whack it with a hammer. That would spread out that eye a bit, and then take some pliers, bend it out all the further, cast the lead, finish the head. That hook eye is bent out just enough that you can get the blade underneath. Now you've got your blade connected to the eye, and they take a pair of pliers and they squeeze that back down. I've been around lure making forums for years, seen a lot of guys do it that way, and they run into two big issues. As they bend out that hook eye, they go through a lot of hooks. If you've gone all the way to put a head on it, a nice paint job on it, you're ready to go, and the last step is to bend that back and it breaks on you, that's no bueno. Secondly, and this is especially important for those that sell chatterbaits to other guys, Z-Man, I'm sure many of you know this, but for those that don't, Z-Man holds the patent that says they're the only ones, or the companies that they license the rights to do it, they're the only ones that can connect a blade directly to the head. Strike King, maybe some other companies, you'll see that those blades are connected directly to the head as well, but if you read the fine print on their packaging, they have licensed the right to do that from Z-Man. If you go from a split ring to a blade, you're okay. So if you sell jigs, and again, been around the forums for a long time, seen a lot of guys that have sold, that sell chatterbaits, run into this problem. Somehow, some way, somebody tells Z-Man, or Z-Man comes about it, right? They're on social media, they see stuff on Instagram, people putting their stuff up for sale, and those guys, more than one, quite a few in fact, have gotten cease and desist letters from Z-Man. Now, I'm not here to argue whether or not that's right. I'm not here to get into the drama about what you think about Z-Man or that patent. A lot of guys say, well, I just make it, I just make them for myself. I don't sell, so it's okay. All I can tell you is that I've even heard of guys that just use them personally, getting letters from Z-Man. If nothing else, it's a known risk, right? You guys make your own decisions on what you want to do. I'm going to avoid patent litigation and all the other drama that comes along with it, and find out a way, or figure out a way, as I think I already have, of how we can get this cool head to take a flat eye hook so that I can connect a split ring to it and put my blade on. I've got my poison tail chatterbait. Z-Man is happy. I'm not bending out any hook eyes, running the risk of breaking anything. Win, win, win all the way around. Without further ado, let's jump over to the shop and I'll show you this modification. It's an easy one. So here's the mold, guys. And actually, before I get started, my apologies if you hear whooshing in the back. It is super stinking hot outside. The air conditioner is cranking, so that's probably going to be with us the whole video, but bear with me. So again, here's the mold. As you can see, I've already done this successfully with the 3/4 ounce, and it worked out beautifully. All we're going to do is drill out enough space where the hook eye normally sits to allow for the flat eye to lay down in there and be appropriately placed, so that this will close, seal up completely, and we can pour it. Simple and easy. So the hooks that we're going to be using are these VMC, you can see it's a flat eye, right? VMC 7328. So this is a 5/0, and it fits wonderfully in the 3/4, just like that. All right, drilled it out. You can see it sits about halfway down, unless it comes out when I move it, but close it up, sealed. You'll get some extra lead around the eye, and there's some additional cleanup to do, but it does the job, guys, and it's super simple. We're actually going to be using the same hook, only in a 4/0. So this is what it looks like, kind of dry fit, right? That's what we're going for. You can see where the hook eye sits is right after that middle little pin that's designed to hold a vertical eye, right, in place. So the first thing we need to do, because we want to drill just beyond there, first thing we want to do is take some normal snips. These are flush cutters that you would take your lead off with, and just put it right in there and snip that guy out. All right, we've got it cut out of there as much as we can, but we really do want to have that space as flat as possible, because we're going to drill beyond it, right? So we want to have this area as flat as possible. So I've got a file here. Pick the file that you like. I kind of like this round one for this job. Get in here and just work the rest of that out of there, so that you have a nice flat surface to work from. And there we have it. See that that's nice and flat now, and it is ready to be drilled. So, standard electric drill. Got my index here, and I have found that this guy right here, 9/64, seems to be just the right size. So again, here's our 4/0 for sizing comparison and what we want to see happen here. Basically want the edge of that flat eye to be resting right on the edge of what that circle's already there. So with that in mind, here's our 9/64. We're going to place that guy right there and just slowly start drilling away right up against that edge until we get it deep enough that our flat eye will sit down inside. Alright, we may have one side complete. Kind of get a sense of how far down. We may have a little bit to go, but you can see there. See that? It's about halfway down. We don't need to go all the way, right? We've got two sides. I'm going to do the other side, same process, and then I'll catch back with you once they're both done, and we'll take a look at the finished product. And there we have it, folks. She's all sealed up. Show you what it looks like. Drilled out there. Drilled out there. This will 100% work to pour some good looking jigs. Speaking of which, let's get the weed guard. I'm not going to go the whole way with this one. I've got a little half pin that I use when I pour stuff like this that I don't want a weed guard but takes a weed guard. You can use these Teflon pins and just place it in like that right before the head, or you can find these smaller pins. They actually don't sell them in lure making shops or anything. I can't remember the size of this. Maybe I can find it before the video posts and put it in the description, but it's the perfect size to just drop in there, and you got a little nub that you can just click off or clip off. That's how we're going to run it. Let's pour some lead. I was moving stuff around, getting ready to pour the lead, and look what I found. That's what I was talking about. Little solid rivets, 1/8 diameter, 3/4 inch length, aluminum domed head. You can find those, I don't know, maybe on Amazon or somewhere, but these are great if you want to use a mold like I was showing you that has a weed guard, but you'd rather pour it and you don't want to use the Teflon pins. All right, now let's pour some lead. Did she come out? Oh yeah. So you can see there, we've got plenty of lead around the hook eye. But you can see that flat eye. There she is. So we'll get this bad boy out, take off the sprue, and clean up that hook eye. We'll clip off just that little bit of lead there, and then it's on to painting. So we are all set to paint. Got my stuff sitting out here. Gonna do a shad pattern today, so a nice easy coat of white first, white pearl, and then we'll top it off with a little smoke on top. Will look really nice. We also need a blade, so I'll be painting the blade today, also in just straight white. If you haven't seen it, I have a whole video about how to effectively paint these without getting a bunch of paint in that hole there where it's going to connect to the split ring, as well as keeping you from chipping. So I'll drop that link down in the descriptions for you guys to go check that out, but it's a good one, help you out quite a bit in painting blades. Well, here's the jig head. You guys want to see the finished product, right? So there she is, flat eye, all cleaned up. The top of the head is looking good. We'll heat this bad boy up. Of course, we're going to use our heat shrink tubing, just like always. Put that on the eye. I'll double dip here, and then take it over and to put our top coat on of the smoke color. She looks good. Whenever I'm doing a top coat like that, I like to take that heat shrink off before I do it. That way I don't get a white streak that runs down the top. Just seems to work a little bit better. And when you're just sprinkling a little bit on top, obviously you don't run the risk of plugging up the hook eye. So now it's time to get this guy and the blade into the oven to cure. So our head is in the jig rack. Of course, I use jig racks for curing all of my finished paint. I just think it really works well and gives me added security in case some of that paint wants to drain or drip. It'll come right down the hook eye and not sag right there if I hang it on a rack. So I use jig racks for everything. Again, you could find a how-to video on how to make these on the channel if you are interested and haven't seen that one yet. That one's going in there. We also need to cure our blade. This is certainly a function over form. How about that contraption? You get the idea? It's just 3 paper clips that I bent out and made a little hanging rack so that I can put it in there and hang my blades off of at the same time. Some may wonder, why don't you just hang it off the bottom, Adam? But as you can see, it goes too low and it hits this rack. If I don't use that and I move this up a level, of course every toaster oven is different. Now I can't get my jigs in there. So I found a solution. It's a little janky looking, granted, but that guy will go in there. This guy will go on there. Into the oven they both go. My oven at 300 runs closer to 350-ish, So I calibrated it at 300. That's where it stays. Since it's cool, I will put it on 300 for 25 minutes. That gives it time to cool up and bake those bad boys for about 20 minutes. Air conditioner turned off, but man, it is still hot in the shop. The oven is on, probably part of the reason, as well as the heat gun pushing out all that heat. But it is going to cure up, and after it's done, I'll stick the eyes on and seal it up with Sally Hansen's. Won't video that, do that off camera. It's pretty simple stuff, just a little super glue, get them on there, and then, like I said, seal it up with Sally Hansen's. What I thought I would do was show you the skirt pattern, so once we get to the vise in this video, we can just jump right in. So the bottom is going to be a classic white belly, so that's pretty simple. This is that new skirt color. It's another striped skirt that's got different tones of smoke and pearl. It's got just a little bit of blue flake in there, which I really dig. The trailer that I'm going to put with this has some of that smoke with a little bit of blue flake in it as well, so I think it's going to pair beautifully. This will be our top skirt, and then I'm going to pick out some blue Flashaboo. I mean, just maybe 2 strands, so 2 on one side, 2 on the other, just a little bit of a hint of blue. So the next time you see me, we will be at the vise. Look at that head. Man, I love the poison tail. Just the paint job turned out nice too, right? Gets a little splotchy with the smoke on top, which is always nice. Some nice 3D eyes, but it's the sculptedness of this head that makes it, in my opinion, awesome. So can't wait to see it in a chatterbait. Got our flat eye going. Gonna be using 210 denier flat wax nylon as usual in white. Gray would be another great choice for this, just that kind of gray, silvery, smokish kind of deal. All right, it's going to be a quick tie at the vise. We'll start with our white belly. Measure it over, make sure it's about the same. Always want a little bit more material on the front side to compensate for the bubble, right? Flip her over. Here's that striped silicone I was showing you earlier. Measure it out, make sure they're about the same. Meet these two. There goes the air conditioner. Alright, that looks pretty good. Tighten it up here. I always like to tighten up the tabs before I build a collar, just so helps to keep me from trapping any silicone. Doesn't always work perfectly, but I make a lot fewer mistakes doing it this way. That looks good. And lastly, as I mentioned, some blue Flashaboo, but just a touch. So usually I like to load up a chatterbait bladed jig with this stuff, because as it moves and shakes, it really works well with the flash. But I'm wanting something a little bit more subtle, so we're just going to go with 2. Right there in the middle. Put it on one side. Bring it over. Trap it. Right down the middle of those 2 tabs. And of course, they'll spread out when they're in the water. Just like that. Beautiful. go ahead and clip these in so I can build this thread collar a little bit quicker. There we go. And that's pretty much that. Quick whip finish here. 3, 4, 5. Some Loon water-based head cement. Lock those threads in, and let's cut the tabs loose. I always go about as long as I can, far out, cut off just the absolute minimum to free them up, because you can always go back and trim, cut whatever you need to after the fact. Bingo bango. There it is. We got some dangle stuff here. I'm not going to make it exactly even. You can actually, if you're looking at the jig that way, you can actually come down this side, kind of give it some profile and shape, and turn it, go the other way with it. So you're making kind of a teardrop even with the skirt. Some jagged stuff. You can come in the bottom, kind of give it a haircut. You guys see hairdressers do that sometimes. They're coming at hair. That looks pretty good. The only thing left now is the blade. Found it. So I've got a number 2, size number 2. I think it's 20-pound breaking strength or expansion strength, a split ring. I always like to put the split ring on the blade first. And now the duo snap. One quick note about this, the number 2 duo snap, inevitably where it connects, right, where this little guy connects down and secures it in place, locks it in place, the snap portion, that little bended piece is always a little too high, so the bend isn't as sharp as you see it here. What happens is then it won't fit in these holes. So I grab just the edge of it and I bend it back just so it's a little sharper angle, and that fits perfectly. How about them apples? Much like the blade, I do not have the trailer for this right here. So, once again, I'll be right back. So I shoot these. This is the Bass Tackle 4-inch chatter something. It's a jointed swim bait. Looks like a Zako, right? This is smoke with a little bit of that blue in there that you can see, right? And pearl belly. So it's going to be perfect with this guy. That is a juicy shad profile chatterbait using one of my favorite heads for swim jigs. Ready to roll as a bladed jig with a flat eye hook. Keeps me out of hot water with Z-Man and gives me all the benefits of a sweet looking head. Let me get some close-up shots of this finished product for you guys. I'm not going to be able to put it in the test tank because there's no room. There's not enough room in the 15-gallon tank for you to see the action. So hopefully the close-up shots are good enough, and I'll catch you right after those. I think it turned out pretty darn spiffy. I love that I have one of my favorite swim jig heads, that poison tail, now ready to go for chatterbaits, bladed jigs. I can now do them in 3/4 ounce, as well as what you saw today in a 1/2 ounce. And pretty darn easy modification, even for a guy like me who's not all that handy. If you like the look and you want to take the chance, I encourage you to do so. Not that big of a deal. I think you'll be pleased with the results. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you'd like to see some more just like it, click on this video right here. If you're curious about the name SDG, then click right here. Otherwise, until the next time, I'll see you guys at the Vice.